Video 21, Math Lesson 4.2, Division. Please take out your notebook and go to your next clean page. The notes topic is division. Write division at the top of your page. Now, you learned how to divide when you were in 4th grade. And you might have learned a few different strategies for doing that. Now that you're in 5th grade, just like with multiplication, we are going to always have you use the traditional method of dividing. A lot of times your study links or your math boxes or journal pages will ask you to use a particular algorithm like partial quotients, and we're going to ask you to ignore those directions, just like with multiplication, and always use the traditional method of division. Before we review how to do that, we also want to review some of the important vocabulary. The number that is being divided is the dividend. The number that is doing the dividing is called the divisor. We often will talk about your divisor. Okay? And your answer to a division problem is called the quotient. Now let's take a look at some examples. You do not need to write down this story problem in your notes, but you should put the reminder of these vocabulary terms. So copy this part into your notes. Here's our first example. 196 students are enrolled in grade 5. If the school has 7 grade 5 classrooms, how many students are in each classroom? Well, the very first thing we need to do, of course, is make an estimate. Now, if I am looking at this problem, our problem here is that we have 196 students who need to be divided up into 7 classrooms. So our problem is 196 divided by 7. Okay, write that example down in your notebook. Okay, put example, 196 divided by 7. Now, first thing we need to do is make an estimate. When I look at these numbers, I'm going to think in my head 200 divided by 10, and that equals 20. So this tells me that my answer should be in the tens place. After we make an estimate, it's time to start dividing. Now I'm going to rewrite my problem so that I have it set up here ready to divide. Now remember, the first thing I need to do is take my divisor and go place by place to see how many times it can divide into this dividend. Now 7 can't go into 1, so it's like I have a 0 up here, and when that happens, then I look at the 19. 7 goes into 19 2 times. So since 7 times 2 is 14, I'm going to subtract 14 from 19, and I've got 5 left over. Now I need to bring that 6 down next to the 5, so I'm thinking 7 goes into 56. Well, 7 goes into 56 8 times, so I'm going to subtract 56, since 7 times 8 is 56 exactly, and I've got 0 left over. So my answer is 28. That seems to make sense to me. I estimated that my answer would be in the tens. My estimate was 20. So that seems reasonable. Now, keep in mind, 5th graders, that you can always check your answers to every division problem by doing the multiplication in the same fact family. If I do 28 times 7, it should equal 196. So you can always check that. And if we multiply that out, we find out that it does equal 196. Now, I would like you to try these two problems. Write them down in your notebook by your notes. These are all examples, and I want you to pause this video, solve the problems, and then resume the video to get the answer. Okay, so you should have completed these two problems. Now, hopefully the first thing you did was make an estimate. When I look at this problem here, I would think 200 divided by 10 is 20. So my estimate is 20. I'm in the tens. Now, they suggest that you think 180 divided by 9. That's fine too. It's just another way to do it. Now, when you solve this problem, this is what you should get. Okay, the answer is 17. Check your work. 9 goes into 15 one time, so subtract 9, get 6. Bring down that 3. 9 goes into 63 7 times, subtract 63, and there is no remainder. Also remember that you can check it with a multiplication problem by doing 17 times 9, and you should get 153. In our second problem here, to make an estimate, I would think 500 divided by 10, and that equals 50. Their suggestion is using friendly numbers like 560 divided by 8, and that's fine. It's another way to do it. Either way, we know that our answer should be in the tens place. Now, check your work. Okay, 8 goes into 53 6 times, so I'm going to subtract 48, and I've got 5 left over. Bring down the 7. 8 goes into 57 7 times, so I'm going to subtract 56. I've got 1 left over. There are no more numbers to bring down, and so that 1 is my remainder. So my answer is 67 with a remainder of 1. Now, even when you have remainders, you can still check your work by using a multiplication problem. Here's how you do it. Take your 67 that you got times 8. Okay, do that multiplying. You get 536. Then add whatever the remainder is. In this case, it's 1. After you add that remainder, you should get your dividend that you started with, 537. Now we're going to do one more practice problem, and I want you to do the same thing. Pause this video, copy it into your notes and solve the problem, and then resume the video. Now you'll notice this time we have a 2-digit divisor, so it's going to be a little bit trickier. However, you still use the same exact procedures to solve the problem. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and work it out. Okay, now first of all, you should make an estimate. When I look at this problem, I think 500 divided by 10 equals 50. So that would be my estimate. Here's a suggested estimate here. They used 520 because they knew that 52 divided by 13 would be 4. If you're familiar with playing cards, that might make sense to you. Now, check your work carefully to see how you did when you solved this problem. 13 goes into 53 4 times. Now, if you're not familiar with cards and your 13 facts, that could have been a little bit tricky to figure out. You know, sometimes you have to do a little multiplying on the side, kind of make an estimate in your head of how many times you think it will be, but then you might have to actually multiply it to figure it out, so that you could figure out that 13 times 4 would be 52. So 13 goes in 4 times, subtract your 52 and you've got 1 left. Then bring down your 7. 13 goes into 17 1 time, subtract 13 and you've got 4 left over. There are no more numbers to bring down, so this 4 is my remainder. So I got an answer of 41, remainder 4. if you use multiplication to check your work, you would have to start by doing 41 times 13. And after you do that multiplying, you would get 533. Then you need to add on that remainder, and 537 should match with our dividend here. If you made a mistake on any of these problems, that's okay. What's important is that you look carefully to figure out what your mistake was, and then hopefully you can avoid making those same types of mistakes in the future.